The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third and final session of our National Capacity Development and Operator Certification Virtual Workshop. Today's session is on adaptive training and testing techniques. And to go over, for those of you who attended, I don't know why my screen keeps, sorry, some technical issues here. So for those of you who attended the two previous sessions, welcome back. Just a final reminder that the in-person workshop was rescheduled to next August. And some housekeeping items. During the webinar, please type in any questions that you have into the control panel in the questions section. And we'll only be taking clarifying questions during the webinar if time allows. And then time for additional questions will be discussed during the following Teams meetings. But go ahead and put your questions in there anyway, so we'll copy them and we'll bring them to the discussion afterward. Also, you can download the presentation slides and presenters' information handouts from the control panel as well. And a reminder, 15 minutes after we have finished the webinar, sorry, I'm having some major technical problems. Sorry, be patient for just 1 second while I try to figure this out. Okay, hopefully that fixed it. So again, 15 minutes after the webinar, we're going to have Teams meeting discussions. There will be two groups. So check your email for the calendar invite with your link. The first part will have 5 to 10 minutes to ask questions of the speakers, and 40 to 45 minutes after that to discuss challenges and successes and provide recommendations for us at EPA and ASDWA. And if you did not receive a Teams meeting calendar invite, you can please contact Allison Flanagan, and her email address is on the screen. It's flanagan.allison@epa.gov. I think I just got muted and unmuted. So again, I was saying, please fill out the survey after the session. And on to today's webinar, Adaptive Training and Testing Techniques. I'm your moderator, Matt Reed. I'm EPA's National OpCert Coordinator in the Office of Groundwater and Drinking Water at EPA headquarters. And I'm just going to go very briefly over a couple challenges that I think you all are aware and experiencing. And then we're going to move to lessons learned with remote training in rural Indiana. And our speaker for this session will be Donald Papey from the Alliance of Indiana Rural Water. And following that will be Iowa's remote exam proctoring. And the speaker for that will be Lori Sharp from Iowa's Department of Natural Resources Water Quality Bureau. So, like I said, I just wanted to tee up basically for the speakers so what brought us to the topics that we're going to be talking about today, and that is challenges in the water sector during COVID. Specifically, I think the main challenges are operator training for CEUs, could be caused by in-person training that's lacking in different areas. And also some CEUs aren't always accepted by primacy agency for online training. And then the other challenge noted is operator testing for certification renewals. And the part in that is in-person testing availability and virtual testing options. So with that, I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Lori. I'm sorry, to Donald, and he's going to start his presentation.
Hello, everybody. As stated, my name is Donald Papey. I'm with the Alliance of Indiana Rural Water. I'm the apprentice training director for the state of Indiana, and I've just recently taken that position here last June. So we've had to face some uphill challenges, but I like to say that we're climbing the mountain and we're becoming very successful in doing so. I'm sure everyone that I'm talking to right now fell into the same boat in March of 2020. I think that day will live for a very long time in a lot of our minds. You know, there's always special dates, and I think that this date's going to stick in there for all of us. We had one of the biggest conferences of the year coming up in March. We had operator certification renewal was fastly approaching. It was in June, and all these young men and women are running around trying to gather their hours so that they could renew their certification. We had all of our instructors, they were in the field, either teaching CEU classes, or we even started some exam review classes, and they were all in person. Events were quickly being canceled, and our organization was added to the list as well, so we lost one of the biggest conferences we have in the year. On March 16th, we went under the stay-at-home mode, and by April 7th, we were offering our first webinar, and here is how we did it. Prior to April 7th, we had never held a webinar. We had attended a few, but no one had experience doing them ourselves. We first looked at classes we had already had approval for. They were easily converted to the webinar style. Next, we had approached to the state primacy agency, hoping to get their blessing. They were a little apprehensive at first. They were concerned about how we were going to track attendance. We pitched to them an idea, and needless to say, they went with it. And here's a little bit how we did that, all right? Everybody had to pre-register for the class. Okay, that's a given. You pay whatever money they paid, and then they were pre-registered. A link was sent to the individuals so that they could join us in this webinar-based scenario, all right? Towards the end of the presentation, a code word, the code word for today, it was given, and in order for anyone to get credit for it, number one, they had to be registered, and number two, they had to email the code word to the office, and then a CEU form would have been sent to them via email or in the mail, depending on the individuals themselves. So that's how we did that, and it went very, very well. Another one of the big questions that we had, if we offer a webinar-based class, would the operators attend? Because you have to remember, we are all human beings, and what do human beings dislike to do? Change. Well, I just hit a big one right there, change. We decided to take a swing, and we hit a home run. Our in-person classes were averaging around 20 people, and our web-based platform were averaging around 30 people, with one topping 70+ students in the class. So that was rather amazing. Selecting the correct webinar platform to fit your needs. Things that need to be considered. It's easy to use for all parties involved. That is a definite must, because you have a lot of individuals that are still on the older end of things, and they're not too familiar with computers. So trying to find something with ease was difficult, but we managed to do that as well. Some of the features, if you were to purchase a new computer for work, sometimes they're not allowed to have cameras or microphones. So The chat feature was a definite must for us. We needed to be able to communicate with the students. And finally was the cost. We needed a low-cost option because remember, we had no clue at the time if we would even have any attendees. And besides, we didn't even have a budget for webinar-based software, so we needed to find something. Our solution was Microsoft Teams. This is our plug for Microsoft Teams. We already had Office 365 on our computers. Our training coordinator discovered that the package that we had also included Teams. We toyed around with it until we figured out how to adapt it to fit our needs at no additional cost, which is money in the bank. With the State Primacy Agency on board, we immediately started promoting our webinars. Hiccups to overcome. A good internet connection is a definite must. You've got to have a good internet connection because some people will be registered, and if their internet connection isn't up to par, then they'll be sitting in the dark, which caused a lot of systems to upgrade to a higher speed internet. So a lot of the systems upgraded so that they could be compatible with this type of training. We needed to have staff available to assist the attendees with issues. And trust me, there will be issues. If you haven't experienced with this yet, there will be issues, just like Matt was having a bit of a technical difficulty there in the beginning of this session. This task cannot be accomplished by the individual that's doing the instructing. He has multiple things that he needs to take care of as well. So it needs to be someone in the office being able to assist all these people, whether it's logging in to the webinar themselves or having a trouble hearing. Sometimes you have to pop out, get out of it, pop back in. But the young ladies in the office can explain all that to you to help you get aboard. Selecting the right instructors. Boy, this is a big one for y'all, I'm sure. Instructors need to have a personality to carry over the airwaves. Yeah, they do. I'm hoping I'm coming across Lima Charlie loud and clear. The audience can't always see the instructors, so it's very easy to lose their attention. Just like all I'm seeing is a screen right now. We have over 100 people in here, which I see nobody. So, hey, I'm living what I'm saying. The instructor's voice, mannerism, and presentation really need to resonate with the audience to keep them engaged. The instructors need to be comfortable in their own skin, laugh at their own jokes, which I don't have a problem with, I'm pretty good at that, and tell a lot of stories pertaining to the lessons that are being taught. A good storyteller is always going to have an individual captivated, so they're waiting for the next word. So good storytelling behind the presentation is a must as well. An instructor that is monotone, just like the old commercial with dry eye, and very one-dimensional with their presentation will lose the audience right off the bat, and it will be very difficult and nearly impossible to get them back. Always try to have other staff members attend the webinar as well. They can monitor the chat for questions, and then when the instructor has a break, then the question can be brought forward so that it can be answered in the time it was received. They can also give input when necessary, and sometimes that's all it takes. And then the others will join the conversation as well. Sometimes it just takes one person to break the ice. A lot of people don't like leaving their comfort zone, so then they'll just sit there waiting for someone to ask the question that they really want to ask. So you have to take a look at the format that we're in. You know, get out of your comfort zone, unmute yourself, and say hello. Ask a question. This one is huge. Teaching styles. Lecture supported by a PowerPoint presentation. Here is where you guys can really shine. The instructors that are listening to me right now, here's where you can really shine. The presentation should be engaging, limited in verbiage, and have some fancy features for added fun. At the Alliance, we like to call it Donaldized. That's what we call it. And I like to do that because not only, you have to remember the individuals that we're training, a lot of them are younger, they're coming up through the ranks, their attention span isn't too long, you know, they're always popping in on the remote, maybe checking Facebook or whatnot also. You need to have a lot of things going on along with a good speaker and some things on the screen. So Donaldize it is. I didn't Donaldize this presentation too much. I didn't want to overwhelm a whole lot of people, but I did put some things in it after it was built. So thank you, Kelly and the Alliance. To help engage the attendees, interacting features such as polling, questions can easily be added to most webinar formats, which we have done in the past. I've actually built a small quiz presentation. So a PowerPoint would pop up. I would have everybody in the chat make a selection, A, B, C, or D, and then I would show the correct answer. We've also had it to where there was polls on the right-hand side of the screen. The question was asked, and then you could punch it, and then it'll tell you what percentage of the people has chosen A, or for example, C. And it's very easily, you can add short videos, you can embed them into the presentation, and that can help drive home the lesson. So there's a lot of embedding that you can do to cement some of the teachings that you have going on. So, and it's worked out very well in the past, and it breaks up the monotony a little bit. So you're not always having to listen to the same guy speak. You can have a variety of individuals talk about, such as if we're in wastewater and we're doing laboratory procedures, there's many procedures that are out there that you can embed. So you can talk about the procedure, and then when the procedure is completely finished, then you can show a small video. I'm sorry about this. I'm gonna have to go let my dog out. There's always distractions. There's always distractions. So you're gonna need to try to eliminate the distractions. Find a quiet room in your house. Since most of us are still teaching from home, it's easy to do. I've actually taken one of the bedrooms in our home. We're empty nesters. So we've taken everything out of the room and I've converted it into my office so I can shut the door. But you know what? My dog is always with me though. So everyone's getting to know my dog. But hey, it'll happen. It'll happen. Interruptions are going to happen because you know what? We live our daily lives in the areas. Sometimes if you're not completely secluded, you will have interruptions and just deal with it. It's new to all of us. Everybody that's experiences this, it's new. So just roll with it, learn from the mistake, and then continue to drive on. Remember this blooper? Right after everything was shut down, this was one of the nightly news. And the kids actually broke in. You can see the mom kind of step in there trying to get them all up out of there, but it didn't work. But you know what? Hey, it happened. It was funny. Look at it. It even made the PowerPoint presentation from Don Papey to spread with all of you guys so that you could see this as well. Learning should be fun. So just have fun with it. It is fun. Enjoy. And once again, I know that I only had 20 minutes. I hope that I haven't taken it. It looks like we're at 2:20, so how did I do, everybody? Again, my name is Donald Papey. I'm the Apprentice Training Director for the Alliance of Indiana Rural Water. And in the handout, you should have this slide as well. So if you need to contact me, please send me an email, give me a shout on the phone. Phone's always on 24/7. So sometimes people have questions when they're getting ready to lay down. That's when everyone's mind is working. and then you might come up with something. So just send me a text. I'll get a hold of you in the morning, and if I'm still up, maybe I'll even get a hold of you that evening. So again, I do thank you kindly for your time. And Matt, that's all I got, man.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Donald. We'll go ahead and turn it over to Lori Sharp.
Thank you. Can you see my slides? It's all good?
Yes.
This is really not fair that I had to follow Donald because my not only is my presentation not Donaldized, but I have two dogs in the room with me right now, and they are very volatile. So at any moment you could hear any kind of strange barking noise. Please disregard and do what Donald said and go with the flow and forgive me. But again, this is Lori Sharper from the state of Iowa, and I wish that I could be speaking with all of you in Washington, D.C. over some food and good drink, but instead we're doing this. And I guess the moral of this story is that if we weren't doing this conference virtually, I probably wouldn't be talking about this topic. So let's just go ahead and start from the beginning. As we so cleverly refer to in our household as the good old days, which were literally only 6 months ago, but 6 months ago, or pre-COVID-19, the state of Iowa was giving their exams electronic based or on a computer. The state of Iowa is broken up into 6 regions, and each one of these regions, we have a field office with field staff, and so we were offering exams electronically on computers at those field offices and at a community college computer lab in South Des Moines. And these exams were given what I call electronically or web-based on a computer, but they still had human interaction. You were checked in by a proctor. They got you going. They were the keepers of the unique ID and password that got you into your specific exam. They would check you out at the end and send you off with a score and electronic diagnostics. So while they were electronic, and we haven't given paper exams in Iowa for probably, I don't know, anywhere from 7 to 10 years now, but the exam experience did entail human interaction. The regional offices, you could take them by appointment. The community college was open Monday through Saturday. If you did have an eligibility letter, you could walk in and take it. They're open late on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So our operators were pretty spoiled, and the turnaround time from applying for an exam and getting to take it was pretty fast. And so that's probably why when March came around, it hit us hard and it hit us fast. Obviously, as everybody else in the nation experienced, our venues closed. We were kicked out of our state field offices, and the community colleges closed down, and everybody was sent home. We still are not in our state offices. There is 1 to 2 staff in each regional office on a daily basis, but that's it. Everybody else is still working out of their homes. The community college did reopen this week, but the majority of their classes are online. And what access there is to their computer labs is only enjoyed by their students, which I get. I would do the same thing. When they will be letting our constituents or other public back into their computer labs, who knows? It's anybody's guess. And the farther we went through the summer, the more apparent it became that we probably should not count on any of these venues until at least the beginning of 2021. So what do? So our first initial panic thought was, well, I think we're going to have to go back to paper exams. We got through the first couple weeks in March. We got through the few couple weeks in April, and but our training infrastructure moved pretty quickly to put things virtually online. And so basic courses, exam prep courses, technical courses were being offered online. People were still taking those courses. They had lots of time in their hands to study at home. And we were just being bombarded with calls saying, when can we take a test? When can we take a test? When can we take a test? And so our first thing was, well, I don't know what we can do. I guess maybe we'll just have to give paper exams again. But this would take, first of all, we'd have to hire more staff. We went totally automated a few years ago. We have online renewals, online applications. We have the proctors at these different venues giving exams, so we don't per se have people anymore that travel around and give exams. So I would have had to hire staff. I would have had to hire temporary staff. I would have had to train them. I would have had to set up, just the time it would have taken and the money to set up the infrastructure just really wouldn't have been worth it. And again, I guess probably the real underlying factor with the paper exams was we had worked really hard in the state of Iowa to isolate our operators within their communities, within their systems. You know, if they were large systems, we had them isolated into 2 to 3 groups so that if one group got infected, the other groups wouldn't be infected. And we had these small communities really keeping everybody close knit and offering them technical assistance and stuff like that via virtual or the phone, just in order to keep them isolated, to keep everybody safe and to keep from going into community spread. So I did not want to be that person, that DNR employee on the 10 o'clock news who was having the finger pointed at them because they brought in operators from around the region, put them in a room together, and they all went back and spread it community-wide to all their different communities. And I just didn't want to be that patient zero. And so it was like, what do? We have to do something. Well, the answer actually kind of just fell into our lap. So simultaneously, while all this was happening, 2 things were happening in the state of Iowa, and probably as well in other states. Like I said, our state really, really early on took up the call for virtual training. March in the state of Iowa is our yearly regional AWA workshop month. In other words, every one of those 6 regions has a designated day in the month of March where they have these regional workshops. And they're very important to the operators, especially the small systems in those regions, because we bring together field staff, central office staff, TA providers, other technical speakers, and we talk about rule implementation. We talk about new rules coming down the pipe. We talk about problems that the field offices have been seeing in their sanitary surveys over the last year. We do troubleshooting. We do all sorts of stuff like this, and these are really important workshops for open communication with our small systems. And so we immediately switched. When they were all canceled, we've got to get some of this stuff out there to these isolated operators. And so we set up some couple hour, anywhere from 2 to 4 hour virtual trainings, rule updates, stuff like that we just kind of had all over the place to get back and forth with our small systems and our regions. And so there was a lot of training going on. And so immediately these operators were being forced to and immersed in virtual technology. All of a sudden, I had operators who said, well, I don't know, I don't ever use a computer. Called me and saying, are we going to use Microsoft Teams or Zoom or Business Skype or Google Meets for this one? Everybody kind of overnight became a real virtual guru. And so I guess we were just kind of being thrown into kind of baptism by fire into this medium of virtual, kind of reality in our industry. The other thing going on in March, April, and May was the ending on the finishing out of our education year semester in the state of Iowa, as well as everywhere else in the nation. And so what happened is that we had all of these students switching over to online and virtual training. For example, I have 3 daughters. My oldest daughter is in medical school. My second daughter is in nursing school at the University of Iowa, and my youngest daughter was then a sophomore in high school. And all 3 of them were being tested remotely. In fact, my oldest 2 daughters had been taking virtual remote tests for the last few years in college. Pretty much every midterm or final or major exam that they took over the last 3 to 5 years have been through remote proctoring at the University of Iowa. They took it from their desk, in their bedroom, they took it from their kitchen table, whatever. So they were already used to this format. And also my daughter in high school, all of a sudden her AP exams were done remotely. And so not only was this happening to me, but this was happening to the operator community also. And I had several operators come up and say, hey, my son just took his AP biology exam via remote proctoring. Why can we not do that? You know, my boss is retiring in 2 months. I got to get an upgrade, and I've been studying for it, and I need a test. Why can't we do it this way? And I was like, you know what? Why can't we? So I approached the Association of Boards of Certification and said, hey, why can't we? Why can't we do our exams remote? And they said, you know what? We can. So in the state of Iowa, we were already contracting with the Association of Boards of Certification for the electronic delivery of the ABC National Standardized Exams. So this was just kind of the next step to move into the remote proctoring. ABC already had a relationship with PSI, which is a national global company that already has been doing remote proctoring for other types of tests, for other types of educational institutions and certifications for years. So this was nothing to PSI. This was just something they do every day and have always done. So so we went ahead and said, okay, let's get going. AB said, okay, let's do this. This is the future. Let's get you set up and let's get you going. So with that being said, then I had to go forth and do exactly what anybody else at a state level government I would propose would have to do. And that's what they have to go to their superiors and get the approval. So the first step was making my administration understand the difference between remote proctoring and our pre-COVID delivery of electronic delivery, exam delivery. So in other words, before pre-COVID-19, we did have our exams were, you could take them online, but they were at a venue with a live human there proctoring the exam. And that we will still continue to offer that post-COVID if we ever can get back into any kind of a venue that will let us give those. But so that is one option. But the remote proctoring option, 7 days a week, because that's when PSI offers it. In fact, they told me, I believe they've got staff, the only ones I can remember are Vegas, Kansas, and the Philippines. And so you can take an exam any time of the day, any day of the week, as long as you have a laptop or a laptop or a computer.
Lori, this is Matt. I'm not sure if I'm the only person, but I'm not hearing you anymore. Is anybody else having the same issue? Maybe raise your hand.
Yes, I think she's lost her connection.
As you can possibly get. Your remote session security, you have a live proctor on the other side of the camera. The proctor ratio is 1 proctor to 8 examinees. That's the maximum that they will be watching. So there's somebody's there, they check you in, they have you flash your license or your ID so they can know that you are the right person taking the exam. They scan your surroundings. The session is recorded, so if there's any kind of sort of question as to the integrity of the test session, that you can later go back and look at the recording, listen to it, watch it, see if there's any irregularities going on with that. Your calculator and formulas are on the screen, so there's no need to have calculators or books or formula sheets laying on the testing surface. In other words, they don't need their phone with them because they don't need a calculator. And so it's a very safe, a very about as secure as you can get for remote, and it's pretty sweet. So with the Iowa exam process, Again, there is two different options. Obviously, the first option, which is our traditional option, is not going to be available again until we get back into our testing venues. But so what happens in Iowa is you apply online. You can also still turn in a paper application, but we're pretty much have everybody assimilated into the online application process. You get an eligibility letter. The operator contacts us to let us know if they want to take the exam remotely or at a specific venue. If they want to take it at a specific venue, our traditional method, then we traditionally and still in the future would just send a spreadsheet with the operator's name, ID number, contact number, and exam that they want to take to ABC, and ABC sends us back secure user IDs and passwords for the Iowa proctors. However, if you want to take it remotely, then you let us know that you want to take it remotely. And the state of Iowa has a dashboard, or I believe PSI calls it a bridge or bridges, but basically it's a dashboard specifically created for your program by PSI that our staff just has up in a tab. It's always there. And so when they get somebody who wants to take an exam remotely, and they are deemed eligible, we put their operator name, their ID number, their email address, and then the exam category, type, and grade of what they're eligible to take. That we put that into the dashboard, and that goes to PSI. And from that point on, PSI takes control. They will email the operator the individual link for exam scheduling, for the scheduling of their exam. So at that point, the operator has control over when they want to schedule the exam and if they need to reschedule. For example, you get your email, you go into your link, you say, I'm going to schedule it for a week from Thursday. I want to take it at 2 o'clock. You get to the next Monday, and you're like, that's not going to work for me. I haven't studied enough, or there's not going to be enough staff here for me to go off and take this exam for 2 hours. Whatever the reason is, you just go right back into the link and you reschedule. In the past, reschedules have just been a nightmare for my staff because they spend a lot of time rescheduling people, appointments and stuff like that. And so now that's just all taken care of. The operator takes control of their own destiny, their own scheduling and rescheduling. And PSI offers it, like I said before, 24 hours, 7 days a week. And they also, not only do they offer those exams during all that time, but they also offer technical assistance for all sorts of IT issues. And like Donald said, there's going to be IT issues. But this company, this is what they do, and this is what they've done for years. So they've heard it all. They know how to work with anywhere from somebody who has little to no computer experience or knowledge to somebody who is a technical wizard. So that phone number will come in the initial email that they get with the link for scheduling. So they know that if they have any kind of trouble getting into the exam or during the exam, they can call that number and they will receive assistance. Also, PSI has, if you go on YouTube, you can find some of their videos that shows the exam process, shows step-by-step what you can do, just kind of gives the operator something to look at and something visual to absorb before they go through the process themselves. The next slide I put as a downside to remote proctoring. I really shouldn't have put that. I should just say some of the apprehension or anxiety or questions that my administration had when I pitched this idea to them. There's a couple of them that really stood out. The first one was the higher price for exam package. It does cost $79 an exam package. And by exam package, I mean per, for the whole process of scheduling and the giving of the exam. However, when I talked to my administration, I said, well, this is what I find out. When we started exploring this idea, I called and I talked to operators. I talked to superintendents. I talked to city clerks. I talked to city council members. I talked to mayors. And what they told me is that $79 for the price for the giving of an exam, for getting through the process of examination, is very cheap compared to the usual overhead that they absorb when they get every time they send an operator to take an exam. For example, so let's say you have an operator, he needs to he needs to go to Field Office 1 to take an exam. The closest one is Field Office 1, that venue. It's 2 to 2.5 hours from his plant. That's the closest venue. He has to drive there. You pretty much have to give him the entire day off. And depending on the size of your plant, you might have to pay somebody to replace him for the day. Or if you're a small enough system, you just have nobody on site for that day. They typically take the company truck. You have to pay for their gas. You have to pay for their per diem for food. If they drive there, it takes 3 hours to get there. They take a 3-hour exam. It takes 3 hours to get back. You might have to pay them overtime. So what I found out from the stakeholders is it's $79 for an exam package, and for the convenience of only taking 2 to 3 hours out of a day on exactly the time when they want you to take that test, that's most convenient to your operational schedule at work, far exceeds the benefits, far exceed that $79. I mean, they would pay at least twice that much in overhead if they were just giving a regular exam. So that kind of took care of that issue. The second issue that we had that we heard about was inadequate internet infrastructure. So perhaps, we often hear, and I think Don even touched on this, we have lots of operators who say to us, well, my internet is sketchy. I can't get on it. Our broadband is awful, or I don't have a computer. I don't have a computer with a camera or a microphone. That's okay. We can find you one. We can find you access to those things. We've had no trouble with it. We had the same issues when we switched to some virtual online training, and we were able to take care of anything that came up. Lots of times it was their grandson had a computer, their son had a computer, their neighbor had a computer, the city clerk let them use their computer. We had I had one operator who said, I just can't get good enough internet coverage to stick with this virtual training. And so we went to the city clerk, and she's like, well, I've got a great hotspot on my cell phone. Here, when next time you need to take a virtual training, just use the hotspot on my phone, and we'll arrange for it. So there's always things that we can do to help that out, but we just really have not. It shouldn't deter anybody from doing remote proctoring, because we can find them an answer to that. So I guess the moral of this entire presentation is that there's not many things that we can say thanks to the COVID-19 scenario for, but the one thing that Iowa can say thanks to them is it has really accelerated, like I have in the slide, the sometimes slow wheels of bureaucracy when it comes to modernizing and moving ahead with the times in your program infrastructure. Not only has it helped us with remote proctoring and increasing exam accessibility, it also has helped us with our virtual training, continuing education accessibility. We have found that most trainings we could go virtual quite easily and quite effectively. We found that there's also a happy medium between there's some training that is good to go for a day virtually and then meet a day a few weeks later in person at a plant and do some hands-on to just kind of implement and to kind of talk about and show some hands-on experience with those continuing education topics. So what we found is that we could make this virtual transition, and we could do it quickly. We did it quickly, and we did it with real quality outcomes. And the biggest thing is that from now on, there should be interruption in service. If we have another, knock on wood, future pandemic or type of emergency that's close to a pandemic, we hopefully will have no interruption in service. And I guess with that being said, it's 1:45, so I talked as fast as I could, and I guess we're ready to move on to discussion later.
Okay, thank you very much, Lori, and both excellent presentations. So thanks again to both of you for coming and sharing your experiences and how you dealt with this for your operators. Again, as you see on the screen, we do have in 15 minutes the discussion. So please check again. Sorry, somebody sent a message and is messing up my screen. Okay, so anyways, please check your email. Lori will be in group A, Donald is in group B. So we look forward to a discussion. Also, the questions that were sent, I believe, are going to be dealt with or answered in these discussions. So again, thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you in about 15 minutes.